The campfire's flames cast dancing shadows across the faces of Troop 417 as they roasted marshmallows under a star-filled sky. Troop leader Jessica Walsh watched her girls with pride, remembering how far they'd come since that first meeting 9 months ago. Now, deep in the wilderness of Camp Evergreen, they were about to face something no scout handbook could have prepared them for. "And that's why you always triple-check your knots," Jessica concluded her cautionary tale about a poorly secured tent that had gone tumbling down a hill during her own scouting days. The girls laughed, their badges gleaming in the firelight. 14-year-old Priya Patel, the troop's resident astronomy expert, suddenly straightened up, her marshmallow forgotten on its stick. "Ms. Walsh? That star, it's moving wrong." Jessica followed Priya's pointing finger to what appeared to be a bright star, but unlike any she'd ever seen. It pulsed with a blue-green light and moved in precise geometric patterns across the sky. Around the campfire, 12 pairs of eyes tracked its mysterious dance. "Maybe it's a satellite," suggested Rachel Thompson, adjusting her glasses as she squinted upward. The 15-year-old had earned every STEM-related badge available, and her analytical mind always searched for logical explanations. Before Jessica could respond, the light descended with impossible speed, stopping about 50 feet above the clearing. The air crackled with static electricity, causing everyone's hair to stand on end. The marshmallows began to glow with an odd phosphorescence. "Everyone behind me," Jessica ordered, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. The girls formed a tight group, their years of drill practice kicking in automatically. Above them, the light expanded into a translucent sphere that illuminated the entire clearing with its otherworldly glow. From within the sphere emerged figures that defied description, their forms seemed to shift between solid and liquid, their surfaces reflecting the forest around them like living mirrors. 3 of these beings descended to the ground, moving with a grace that suggested they weren't bound by normal physics. "Greetings, young cultivators," a voice resonated directly in their minds. "We are the Luminari, and we have been watching your species with great interest." 13-year-old Zoe Chen, the youngest but often the bravest, stepped forward despite Jessica's attempt to hold her back. "Are you aliens?" she asked, her voice unwavering. The nearest being rippled with what might have been amusement. "We are seekers of potential. Your species, particularly its youth, has drawn our attention. You possess something unique in the galaxy, an ability to adapt, to create, to imagine beyond the boundaries of what is." Jessica felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. "What exactly do you want with us?" "We wish to understand this potential. To study it. To harvest it." The being's surface swirled with complex patterns. "Your troop represents an ideal sample group. You have demonstrated remarkable problem-solving abilities, leadership skills, and creative thinking in your various achievements." It gestured to their badges. "We're not laboratory specimens," Rachel declared, her scientific mind now fully focused on the threat before them. "And we don't consent to being studied." The being's surfaces darkened slightly. "Consent is not required. We have already begun." Around the clearing, strange crystalline structures emerged from the ground, emitting a soft humming sound. Jessica felt her thoughts becoming fuzzy, but years of leadership training kicked in. She reached for the emergency whistle around her neck, not to call for help, but to use its piercing sound in a way no one would expect. "Girls," she said calmly, "remember our sound wave experiment from the physics badge?" Rachel's eyes widened with understanding. "The resonance frequency." "Exactly." Jessica turned to her troop. "Formation Omega, just like we practiced. And girls? Use your lungs like you've never used them before." The aliens watched with what seemed like curiosity as the girls arranged themselves in a precise circle. They couldn't know that for the past month, the troop had been practicing what Jessica called sonic meditation, actually a complex exercise in creating standing wave patterns with their voices. Now, Jessica blew the whistle at exactly the frequency they discovered could shatter glass, and 13 young voices joined in perfect harmony, creating a sound wave that would have made any physics teacher proud. The crystalline structures around them began to vibrate. The aliens' reflective surfaces rippled with what might have been concern. Cracks appeared in their technology, spreading like spider webs across the alien devices. Impossible, the alien voice resonated in their minds, but now it carried a note of uncertainty. Your species is not supposed to understand harmonic resonance at this development stage. Jessica allowed herself a small smile. There's a lot about humans you don't understand. Especially Girl Scouts. The crystals shattered simultaneously, and the aliens' forms began to destabilize. Their perfect mirror surfaces showed distortions, like a pond disturbed by too many ripples. This requires further analysis, the lead being announced, its mental voice now tinged with something that sounded remarkably like respect. We will return. The sphere of light descended, enveloping the aliens, and then shot back into the sky with incredible speed, leaving the clearing in darkness save for the warm glow of their campfire. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Zoe broke the silence. Ms. Walsh? Is there a badge for alien encounters? Jessica laughed, the tension breaking. No, but maybe it's time we proposed one to headquarters. Right after we figure out how to warn the rest of the world about our new friends. Around the campfire, the girls of Troop 417 began to plan, their minds already working on ways to prepare for the Luminaries' return. They had survived first contact, but Jessica knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had underestimated them once, they wouldn't make that mistake again. But neither would the Girl Scouts be caught unprepared again. After all, their motto wasn't just for show, be prepared. And now they had an entirely new meaning for those words. 3 days after their encounter at Camp Evergreen, Troop 417 gathered in the basement of Jessica's home, surrounded by maps, computers, and amateur radio equipment. The normal meeting space at the community center didn't feel secure enough anymore. Rachel had rigged up signal scramblers from modified walkie-talkies, while Priya kept watch on the skies through a telescope connected to pattern recognition software she'd coded herself. They're appearing all over, Zoe announced, updating their digital map with new pins. Singapore, Buenos Aires, Stockholm, always near youth groups. Not just scouts either. Sports teams, science clubs, art schools. Jessica studied the pattern emerging on their map. The Luminari weren't just making random contacts, they were systematically targeting organized groups of young people. But why? Got another transmission decoded, Rachel called from her laptop. She'd repurposed the radio merit badge equipment into a global monitoring system. A chess club in Mumbai managed to send out a coded message before they went dark. They're saying the aliens showed up with some kind of gift, crystalline structures like the ones we saw, but more advanced. Priya looked up from her telescope. The ones that were supposed to harvest our potential? Exactly, Rachel nodded, her glasses reflecting the screen's glow. But these don't shatter. They're calling them enhancement pods. The aliens tell each group their educational tools to help develop their talents. Jessica felt her stomach tighten. And the kids who use them? They do get better at whatever they're practicing. Way better. But. Rachel hesitated. They start changing. Becoming more uniform. Less creative. Like they're being optimized instead of actually learning. It's like they're being turned into programs instead of people, Zoe added quietly. A soft ping from Priya's equipment drew their attention. Movement in the upper atmosphere. Similar energy signature to what we recorded at the campsite. They're coming back, Jessica said. But this time, we know what to look for. The basement door opened, and Kimiko Tanaka, their wilderness survival expert, rushed down the stairs. Ms. Walsh. You need to see this. She held up her tablet, showing a live stream from downtown. A familiar sphere of light hovered above the city's prestigious Performing Arts Academy. "They're not even trying to hide anymore," Jessica muttered. "Girls, Protocol Theta." The troupe moved with practiced efficiency, gathering their modified equipment. Over the past few days, they'd adapted their scout gear into what might be the world's most unusual defensive arsenal. Radio transmitters became alien energy detectors. Friendship bracelet threads were rewoven with conductive fibers. Even their cookie sales charts had been repurposed into prediction algorithms for alien appearance patterns. "Remember," Jessica addressed her troupe as they prepared to move out, "what makes humans special isn't just our potential, it's our diversity. Our messiness. Our ability to be brilliantly imperfect. That's what they don't understand, and that's our advantage." They emerged into the evening air just as a second sphere appeared over the Natural History Museum. The Luminari were making their move, but this time, Troop 417 wasn't alone. Rachel's decoded transmissions had reached other troops worldwide. A network was forming, hidden in plain sight behind badge meetings and cookie sales. "Ms. Walsh?" Priya called out, her voice tense. "I'm detecting different energy signatures this time. They've adapted their technology. Our resonance trick won't work again." Jessica nodded, having expected this. "Then we adapt too. Zoe, how's that frequency modulator coming along?" Zoe pulled out what looked like an ordinary scout compass, but its inner workings had been completely rebuilt. "Ready for testing. If I'm right, it should detect the frequency their new crystals operate on and let us disrupt it." "Let's hope it works," Jessica said as they piled into her van. "Because according to these patterns, they're not just studying anymore. This is starting to look like a full invasion." The van wound through darkening streets toward downtown. Above them, more spheres of light appeared, their blue-green glow reflecting off office windows. The Luminari had indeed returned, but they'd made one crucial mistake: they'd given Earth's defenders 3 days to prepare. As they approached the Performing Arts Academy, they could see students walking into the building in oddly perfect lines, their movements almost synchronized. Through the windows, crystal structures pulsed with hypnotic light. "Look at their faces," Kimiko whispered. "They're smiling, but it's wrong. Like they're reading from a script they can't put down." Jessica gripped the steering wheel tighter. "That's not going to happen to anyone else. Not on our watch." The van pulled into an alley behind the academy. Above them, the sphere pulsed with what seemed like satisfaction, unaware that its perfectly calculated plan was about to meet human unpredictability at its finest. Rachel checked her tablet one last time. "Signals from Moscow and Cape Town confirm our theory. The crystals are all networked. If we can disrupt one nexus point, we can disrupt them all," Jessica finished. She turned to face her troupe. "This isn't just about saving ourselves anymore. Those kids in there. They're counting on us, even if they don't know it yet. Ready?" 13 heads nodded in unison, not with alien precision, but with human determination, each girl slightly different in her movement, each bringing her own strength to the moment. "Then let's show these aliens what Girl Scouts can really do." As they moved toward the building, Jessica allowed herself a small smile. The Luminari thought they were harvesting human potential, but they were about to learn that true potential couldn't be harvested, it could only be unleashed. And Troop 417 was about to do exactly that. The interior of the Performing Arts Academy had been transformed. Crystalline structures pulsed with hypnotic light, casting geometric shadows across walls now covered in perfectly symmetrical patterns. Students moved through the halls with unnatural grace, their expressions serene but empty. "Remember," Jessica whispered to her troupe as they crouched behind a row of lockers, "use your badges like they never expected." The girls split into teams, each putting their hard-earned skills to unconventional use. Rachel led the tech team, her robotics badge knowledge proving invaluable as she analyzed the alien crystal's energy signatures. Priya and Kimiko headed for the building's environmental controls, their eco-warrior training suggesting a new approach to disrupting the aliens' perfect environment. Zoe pulled out her modified compass, now connected to a network of similar devices worldwide. "The frequency is stronger here," she reported. "These crystals aren't just networking the students, they're transforming them somehow. Making them more efficient." "Efficiency isn't everything," Jessica replied, watching a group of formerly chaotic drama students walk in perfect unison. "Sometimes the best solutions come from chaos." On cue, Troop 417 launched what they called Operation Beautiful Mess. It started with the ventilation system. Kimiko and Priya released a mixture of natural elements, not harmful, but decidedly unpredictable. Pollen from a dozen different plants, carefully selected for their disruptive properties. Dust from various minerals that could interfere with electronic signals. The crystals pulsing faltered slightly. In the main hall, Rachel's team deployed their countermeasures. Small devices, built from modified cookie sale calculators and merit badge electronics kits, began emitting random frequency patterns, the complete opposite of the Luminari's precise harmonics. "It's working," Rachel called over their secure comm channel. "The network is showing signs of strain. They can't handle true randomness." Above them, the alien sphere flickered, its perfect surface beginning to show ripples of distortion. The Luminari had built their technology on principles of absolute precision, never considering that imperfection might be its own kind of strength. But the aliens weren't done. New crystals emerged from the walls, adapting to counteract the chaos. Students began moving with even more rigid precision, their movements becoming almost robotic. "They're trying to force complete control," Jessica realized. "Girls, Plan Omega." This was the riskiest part of their strategy. Each scout activated their badge-crafted devices simultaneously, but instead of fighting the aliens' order with chaos, they introduced something even more powerful: human creativity. Through the Academy's speakers, now hijacked by Rachel's tech, came a cacophony of sound, but not random noise. It was music, drawn from every culture and style imaginable. Classical melodies intertwined with hip-hop beats, folk songs merged with electronic rhythms. The kind of beautiful mess that only humans could create and appreciate. The students began to falter in their perfect movements. Some started tapping their feet to the beat. Others swayed slightly, muscle memory of their artistic training fighting against the alien influence. "Second phase," Jessica commanded. Zoe activated her frequency modulator at full power, synchronized with similar devices around the world. The crystal's network was designed to impose perfect harmony, but now it was being flooded with a different kind of harmony, one born from dozens of cultures mixing together in ways that could never be calculated or predicted. The effect was immediate and stunning. Crystal structures began to vibrate out of sync, their perfect geometries distorting. Students blinked, their vacant expressions giving way to confusion, then recognition, then determination. Through the windows, they could see the sphere above the building writhing, its surface a chaos of reflections. The mental voice of the Luminari echoed through their minds, but now it seemed uncertain: "This is not possible. Your disorder should not create functional patterns." "That's where you're wrong," Jessica projected her thoughts back. "Our disorder is exactly what makes us strong. Every badge these girls earned, every skill they learned, they did it their own way, making mistakes, learning, growing. That's real potential. Not your perfect programs." Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. The Luminari's network, designed to impose perfect order, was being overwhelmed by the beautiful complexity of human culture and creativity. Girl Scout troops, youth groups, and students everywhere were adding their own unique chaos to the mix. The crystals began to shatter, not from force but from the sheer impossibility of containing so much unfiltered human potential. Students were fully awakening now, their individual talents and quirks reasserting themselves. Some began to dance to the music, each in their own style. Others started singing, adding their voices to the worldwide symphony of deliberate disorder. "I think," Priya said with a grin, watching the alien sphere above them start to retreat, "we just earned ourselves a new badge." "Several new badges," Jessica corrected. "Alien resistance, electronic warfare, and definitely creative problem-solving." But their victory celebration was premature. As the sphere ascended, its surface stabilized into a new pattern, one that suggested not defeat, but recalculation. The mental voice returned, stronger now. "We have underestimated the complexity of your species' development patterns. This requires escalation." The sphere vanished into the darkening sky, leaving behind a silence heavy with anticipation. The battle was won, but the war was clearly not over. "Ms. Walsh?" Zoe asked, still monitoring her frequency readings. What did they mean by escalation? Jessica gathered her troop close, knowing that troops around the world were having similar conversations. "It means we showed them our potential, and now they're going to show us theirs. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Because that's what scouts do." They looked up at the empty sky, knowing that somewhere up there, the Luminari were planning their next move. But this time, Earth's defenders wouldn't be caught unprepared. After all, every Girl Scout knew that the best way to face a challenge was with a pocket full of badges, a head full of knowledge, and a heart full of courage. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of beautiful chaos. The next 48 hours transformed the world. The Luminari's response to their defeat was swift and overwhelming. Gone were the subtle spheres of light and delicate crystal structures. Now, massive geometric ships hung in the skies over major cities, their surfaces a kaleidoscope of impossible angles and shifting patterns. In Jessica's basement command center, Troop 417 monitored the global situation. Rachel's network of modified radio equipment had expanded into a full-fledged resistance communications hub, connecting scout troops and youth groups worldwide. "They're not even trying to hide anymore," Priya reported, her eyes fixed on satellite feeds. "These ships, they're not just bigger. They're reorganizing themselves constantly, like they're running through every possible configuration." "Learning," Jessica said grimly. "They're adapting to every variable we threw at them." Zoe looked up from her frequency analyses. "The new energy signatures are off the charts. Our old disruption methods won't work anymore. They've built in too many redundancies, too many backup patterns." "Then we need to think bigger," Rachel declared, pushing her glasses up with determination. "They're using our own tactics against us, becoming more unpredictable. But they're still missing something fundamental about human nature." A sudden crackle came through their communications network. Reports flooded in from around the globe. The ships were deploying new devices, not crystals this time, but floating spheres that emitted pulses of pure mathematical clarity. People within their range began moving with mechanical precision, their minds apparently overwhelmed by the perfect patterns. "It's happening everywhere," Kimiko reported, monitoring the global feeds. "London, Tokyo, Sydney, whole cities are falling under their control. But..." She paused, studying the data. "But it's affecting adults more than children. The younger the person, the more they resist." Jessica leaned forward. "That's it. They still don't understand human development. They see our youth as potential to be harvested, but they don't grasp why we're naturally more resistant to their influence. Because we're still growing," Zoe realized. "Still changing. Adults have more fixed patterns in their thinking, but kids adapt," Jessica finished. "We learn, we change, we imagine new possibilities every day. That's not chaos, that's evolution." The basement lights flickered as one of the alien ships moved over their city. The mental voice of the Luminari resonated through their minds, stronger than ever. "Your resistance is admirable but futile. We have calculated every possible variation of your defenses. Your potential will be optimized." But Jessica smiled, seeing something in the data streams that the aliens had missed. While they were busy calculating variations, human youth around the world were doing what they did best, connecting, sharing, creating something new. "Girls," she announced, "it's time for Operation Snowflake." The troop moved with practiced efficiency, each girl knowing her role in their most ambitious plan yet. They had spent the past 2 days preparing, gathering resources not just from scout troops but from every youth organization they could reach. Rachel began coordinating the global network, linking together thousands of young minds through their modified communications equipment. Priya's astronomical calculations ensured precise timing. Kimiko's wilderness training helped them understand natural harmony in an entirely new way. Remember, Jessica addressed not just her troop but, through their network, young people worldwide. Snowflakes are nature's perfect example of ordered chaos. Each one follows mathematical rules, but each one is unique. That's what the Luminari don't understand. True perfection comes from infinite variation, not infinite repetition. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Instead of fighting the aliens' patterns, they would embrace them, but with a human twist. Every young person would focus on a single, unique thought or memory, something that defined their individual creativity and potential. The Luminaries' network, designed to impose uniformity, would instead be flooded with millions of distinct patterns, each one perfect in its own way. "Synchronizing now," Rachel announced. Neural network activating in 3, 2, 1. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. The aliens' control spheres, designed to impose mathematical order, began receiving millions of different but equally perfect patterns. Like snowflakes in a storm, each individual contribution was small, but together they created something the Luminari had never encountered: organized chaos on a global scale. Above them, the massive ships began to pulse with conflicting patterns. The mental voice of the Luminari returned, but now it carried a note of genuine amazement. This is not possible. Your patterns, they are both ordered and random. Structured yet infinite in variation. That's what you never understood, Jessica projected back. You saw human potential as something to be optimized, made uniform. But our true potential lies in our differences, in the endless ways we can combine and recombine our ideas and abilities. The ship's surfaces began to ripple and distort, their perfect geometries unable to process the flood of unique patterns. Around the world, the control spheres started to falter, their influence breaking against the wave of individual creativity. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of retreating or attacking, the nearest ship began to transform in a new way. Its surface shifted to reveal patterns that weren't just mathematical, they were beautiful, incorporating the very chaos they had sought to eliminate. The Luminari's voice returned, different now, we have never encountered a species that could teach us. Perhaps, we have much to learn from each other. Jessica looked at her troop, seeing the same mix of hope and caution on every face. Are you proposing a real exchange this time? No harvesting, no optimization, just sharing knowledge. Yes, the voice replied. Your species has shown us that true potential cannot be calculated or controlled. It must be cultivated. Allowed to grow in its own way. The massive ships around the world began to shift into new configurations, no longer threatening but inviting. The control spheres deactivated, releasing their hold on the population. What do you think, girls? Jessica asked her troop. Should we give them a chance to earn their own badge in human understanding? The response came not just from her troop but from young people around the world, their voices carried through their now global network, a resounding yes. Above them, the ship's surface rippled one final time, forming a pattern that looked remarkably like a merit badge, one that represented not perfection, but the perfect imperfection of mutual understanding. 6 months after the Luminaries' transformation from would-be conquerors to curious allies, the annual Girl Scout Jamboree looked very different from previous years. The campground outside of Seattle sprawled beneath a sky where sleek alien ships now peacefully coexisted with Earth's satellites, their surfaces displaying ever-changing patterns that seemed to dance with the northern lights. Jessica watched as her troop demonstrated their latest project to an audience that included both human scout leaders and shimming luminary observers. Rachel and Zoe had combined traditional knot-tying techniques with alien mathematical principles to create something entirely new, quantum knots that could store and transmit information through dimensional space. The pattern holds, a luminary voice resonated gently in their minds, its tone carrying what they had learned to recognize as excitement. But it also changes. Adapts. We still do not fully understand how. That's because they're not just following the math, Jessica explained, watching Rachel teach younger scouts the technique. They're adding their own creative touches. Every knot tells a story. The transformation of Earth's relationship with the Luminari had become a model for how different civilizations could learn from each other without losing their unique identities. The aliens had learned to appreciate the beauty of imperfection, while humanity had gained insights into the underlying patterns of the universe. Priya, who now led an international youth astronomy program, pointed her advanced telescope, a hybrid of human and luminary technology, toward the stars. "The new deep space images are amazing," she reported. "We're seeing patterns we never could have detected before. But more importantly, we're interpreting them in ways the luminari never considered." Across the campground, troops from around the world shared their innovations. A group from Kenya demonstrated how they had combined traditional beadwork with alien light-bending technology to create solar collectors that could power entire villages. Brazilian scouts showed off their new rainforest preservation techniques, using luminary sensing technology to track and protect endangered species. Ms. Walsh. Kimiko called out excitedly. "The Global Council wants to see our presentation on cosmic ecology." The Global Council was perhaps the most remarkable development of all, a collaborative body of human youth and luminary representatives, working together to guide the peaceful integration of their civilizations. They had established a new principle: any technological advancement had to be evaluated not just for its efficiency, but for its impact on creativity and cultural diversity. "Remember when we thought they were going to harvest our potential?" Zoe mused as they walked toward the presentation area. "Turns out they just needed to learn how to help it grow instead." Jessica smiled, remembering those tense days half a year ago. Sometimes the best way to teach is to be willing to learn yourself. The presentation area had been set up in a massive clearing, where hundreds of scouts gathered around a central stage. Above them, luminary ships created a dazzling display of mathematical art, precise geometric patterns that somehow incorporated the organic chaos of nature. As Troop 417 took the stage, Jessica felt a surge of pride. Her girls had grown so much, not despite the challenges they'd faced, but because of them. They had earned badges no one had ever dreamed of before: interstellar diplomacy, quantum engineering, cosmic environmental protection. Today, Jessica addressed the assembled crowd, "We're going to show you something that wouldn't have been possible 6 months ago. Not because we didn't have the technology, but because we hadn't yet learned to combine the best of both our worlds." The troop demonstrated their latest achievement, a method of using scout craft materials and luminary energy principles to create sustainable ecosystems that could theoretically support life on other planets. But the real breakthrough wasn't in the technology itself, it was in how it had been developed, through countless mistakes and adjustments, each failure teaching them something new. The luminary observers rippled with what had become their expression of joy. "Your species continues to surprise us," their collective voice shared. "We came seeking to perfect your potential, but you have taught us that perfection itself is not perfect." As the presentation concluded, a young scout from the audience raised her hand. "Will we ever totally understand each other?" she asked, looking between the human leaders and the luminari. "I hope not," Jessica replied with a smile. "Because that's the most beautiful part of all this: there's always more to learn, more to discover, more ways to grow. That's what being a scout is all about." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the campground as troops began preparing for the evening's activities. Some would learn traditional campfire songs, now accompanied by luminary light harmonics. Others would work on their spacecraft engineering badges, combining ancient navigation techniques with interstellar mathematics. Jessica watched her troop disperse to help younger scouts with their projects, each girl carrying forward the lessons they'd learned during that critical first encounter. They had shown the universe that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in achieving perfection, but in constantly striving to be better while remaining true to themselves. "You know," Zoe said, joining Jessica by the main campfire, "I finally figured out what to call that badge we earned from the first encounter." "Oh." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Universal understanding," Zoe grinned. "Because we helped the universe understand us, and we're still understanding it right back." As the stars began to appear above them, mixing with the gentle glow of luminary ships, Jessica couldn't help but think that this was just the beginning. Earth's youngest heroes had not only saved their world, they had opened up an entire universe of possibilities. And somewhere out there, other civilizations were waiting to learn what Earth's Girl Scouts already knew, that true potential isn't something you can optimize or perfect. It's something you nurture, challenge, and most importantly, share. The campfire crackled, sending sparks toward the darkening sky, each one unique, each one perfect in its own way, just like the countless young minds that had changed the course of human history, armed with nothing more than badges, courage, and the unshakable belief that being prepared meant being ready for anything. Even the impossible.